Yes, hello friends, welcome back to Football Therapy with me, your host, Jan. I hope you're doing well, mate. Really do hope that, and welcome back to the first video of today of Chelsea news, of which there's lots at the moment. We are going to discuss updates on more outgoings. Really interesting. Caicedo, recurring themes as well, but updates. Caicedo, what's going on there? How much we'll have to pay for him? It's actually looking more and more positive, even if generally considered a big fee. RubenLoftusCheek to Milan, imminent, which is good. And Di Marzio finally shedding some light on Christian Pulisic. What's going on there? And Matt Law has given us an update yesterday evening on Mason Mount. The saga has returned. You might have a video or even 2 videos off, but destiny arrives all the same. We'll have to talk about it. So, thanks for joining me. I urge you to support the content by doing a little likey click, and you are welcome to subscribe to this channel. And should you choose to do so, you should hit that it's early sweet bell, baby, to have it, mate. Where to start? Why not start with RubenLoftusCheek? We've paid homage to him a lot here on the channel of late. A unique player. Fabrizio Romano tweeting this. 16 plus 4 million euro deal is the final package. They are closing in. Personal terms agreed. RLC is understood to be really excited about joining Milan. So 20 million euros for 1 year left Ruben Loftus-Cheek contract. In another world, if he'd still been getting called up for England, you'd be charging a lot more for him. But he's on £150,000 a week, which for the new ownership model is a lot of money. And to sell him for 20 million euros and absolve themselves of those wages and again create a slot in the squad, that is superb business, really. Considering we're getting like 10 or 8 million for Hakim Ziyech, to get 20 million for Ruben Loftus-Cheek is okay, all things considered, in the current selling climate of Chelsea Football Club and our needs. I can definitely understand why he'd be excited about joining Milan. As I've said in recent videos, he's probably been on the phone to Fikayo Tomori, who won the Scudetto with Milan, experienced their incredible fan culture. Why Ruben would be replacing Sandro Tonali, who's off to Newcastle for £65 million. So for them to buy Ruben Loftus-Cheek, a replacement to start in their midfield for £17 million, they will be very happy with that. And of course they've done plenty of scouting on him, even though Maldini was the main dude who wanted him, who has since been sacked. They've got those scouting reports, the dossiers, the character reference from Tomori, and they're like, yeah, let's just do it. Let's sign this guy. So yeah, Ruben Loftus-Cheek looks like the coming hours could even be today. Of course, we want to get deals done before the 30th of June. 3 days time. It's the final countdown. One for the teenagers. Right. From one Chelsea attacking midfielder to a kind of another attacking midfielder-esque. Finally, we've got some information on Christian Pulisic, because the news went quiet on him. We know he's been admired in Serie A in Italy. He is a player that, although we haven't spoken about and been linked lately, everyone just accepts he's going to be sold. He generally plays on the left-hand side of a front three. We've got Mudryk and we've got Raheem Sterling now. In fact, that's our most weighted side in the attack at the moment. And generally, I don't know, he's not really, cooked at Chelsea. And you'd have to say it would be nice vacating that number 10 shirt for a certain Christopher Nkunku. People always tell me off when I'm not saying it right. Christopher Nkunku. There you go. Just got to put a bit more effort in. We'll make it. So, yeah, obviously the number 7 shirt will be free as well, but he won't play on the wing. Not that this matters anymore. Kante wore the number 7. He is not a winger. So maybe, I don't know, would get the number 7. Noni? Would he want to take it? I suppose Mudryk. Raheem Sterling, innit? It's Raheem Sterling. He pulls rank. He's senior. He's accomplished multiple trophies. Whether he'd want the number 7 or not, I don't know. But I think it would be quite, it it would probably be right to give it to him. You know, Mudryk and Noni are very young. They can earn their 10s and 7s as they develop up through the Chelsea ranks. Anyway, Pulisic. Gianluca Di Marzio has been reporting that Chelsea are asking for 25 to 30 million euro for Pulisic. So I think Pulisic also has 1 year left on his deal. I believe there's a very small chance he's got 2, but I believe he's on 1. Milan are looking to buy him as well. So they're looking to buy Ruben Loftus-Cheek and also Christian Pulisic. We know Christian Pulisic has long had admirers in Serie A. Juve were looking at him for a while. I believe Chelsea have tried to use him as part exchange. It's never going to work. I get trades is a big thing in American sports, and Bowley wants to bring it over here, but it's tough, man. So we want 25 to 30 million euro. So ultimately we'd like 25 million pound really for him, and Milan are wanting to spend 15 million pound. Again, Pulisic will be on very high wages, probably pushing 200 I imagine. So again, it will be absolving ourselves of huge wages of a non-starter and just generating some value. I get why we would quote 25 to 30 million, because I've spoken about it recently here on the channel. He's still high profile, even if not in Premier League, because of what he represents for US soccer. He's a high profile guy, you know, he's still young. He wears the captain's armband for the US men's national team. He plays well for them, you know, he's very iconic. You watch him when they play against Mexico anytime in that derby. He's like, you know, he's all in, and he's very much like, he's like a protagonist, you know? So there's so much value there, and there's so much marketability that, you know, it's got value in that alone. And of course, he is a good footballer, and keep him fit, he will score some superb goals and do some superb pieces of play. You know, if he can stay fit, and I think he could, like Ruben, he could probably cook Serie A and do really well in Italy. And best of luck to him. I hope he does. There was a time when Pulisic, under Frank Lampard and Project Restart, he looked absolute mustard. He looked next level. Like, he scored a goal against City and was it Liverpool as well? You know, a big opposition where he was just like running past people, slotting it in, and we were like, "Ooh, hello." It didn't look like Hazard. Everyone was like, "Oh, he's the Eden Hazard replacement," but that's not true. But he was, because stylistically he's different. Yes, he likes to dribble, and sometimes will dribble in the 18-yard box, but he's very direct and he's very fast. He likes to turn. He's like a little like less. A little less Eden Hazard with a little bit more Timo Werner in him. He's like, you know, a bit of both. I was going to say not as good as either, but that's a bit disrespectful because, you know, not as good as Hazard, obviously. But he was a bit more of a hybrid in terms of profile. He'd run at goal and be more direct, but Hazard would do that sometimes, but he was more floaty and creative and mercurial. And like Vincent Kompany recently said in the overlap, you know, give Eden Hazard chaos and there's no one better. Like when he doesn't know what he's going to do next. You know, when he's like turning this back to you, floating around, combining, and he's just like in the moment. Eden Hazard, absolute poetry. Oh, underrated still. Anyway, Pulisic, 25. I mean, we'll probably find an agreement on like 18 million euros, and it will just be another get it done, move on, mate, move on. So there's your latest update on Pulisic. It was quite quiet for a while. Oh, Mason Mount story. Not yet. An update from Ben Jacobs on his Substack column, cited by Cy Phillips. Exclusive. He actually says Mount to United likely to get done, which we're going to read on in a moment. It's really interesting. But more saliently for this section, Caicedo, which is obviously our main target at this point, fee closer to 70 plus 10, so not 100 million. 70 million plus 10 in bonuses, but not 70 up front, probably a lot less up front, and fragmented, structured deals to pay up to said 70. And then presumably, if Chelsea win the Premier League, the Champions League, then they start getting some of these bonuses, or maybe very small incremental, you know, qualifying for the Champions League, incremental increases with the bonus. I know we had a £60 million bid for Caicedo turned down. And, that was sort of an opening bid. But if we get him for 70, like 70 flat before add-ons, which again, if you achieve add-ons, it's fine usually because it means you've done well. So if we get Caicedo for 70 million, I said it in maybe yesterday or the day before, like Enzo was 105, but he's a World Cup winner. He's the best player in the World Cup, young player in the World Cup award. He was doing really well in, Europe's premier competition in the Champions League, and Caicedo hasn't done any of those things. But I understand why his profile and his consistent performance in the Premier League this season would dictate a high price, and we are through the looking glass now, so this is where you pay silly money for Caicedo. I mean, Declan Rice saga, if you've been watching that between Arsenal and Manchester City have tabled a £90 million bid, but structured better than Arsenal. I kind of get Declan Rice. He's a captain. He's just lifted a European trophy as captain, and he's such a well-rounded player. I'm not saying Caicedo can't be any of those things, but he's not proven as much. So 70 million. Let me know what you think on Moises Caicedo. Interesting. Yes, we have to reflect on the Mason Mount saga. It's a big story. Conflicting reports. Ben Jacobs, just like I was saying, the aforementioned, saying that it's still likely for him to get done to Manchester United. I've got on good authority, he isn't pushing for a move like some journalists are saying. And Matt Law writes this: Mason Mount will report for training and make himself available for Chelsea's pre-season tour of the United States if a move to Manchester United remains on hold. So United have left a third bid on the table worth £55 million. Chelsea are not inclined to enter on the table, but they are not inclined to enter face-to-face talks, which is peculiar. Surely if you want to sign a player, you want to enter face-to-face talks, but maybe there's reasons for not that I'm just not, informed enough to understand. That leaves Chelsea still having to decide whether or not to lower their £65 million valuation for Mount to return or allow Mount to return to pre-season with Chelsea. So ultimately, if he goes to United, he'll want to have a pre-season at United. But Chelsea, as soon as Chelsea give him a pre-season, start him for pre-season with Poch, you'd have to think he's more likely to stay, whether that's to run down his contract or, eventually sign maybe later in the season should things be going well. Pochettino, who starts work on Monday, is hoping that the majority of Chelsea's want-away players have been sold by the time he flies in with the squad to the United States. Well, let's think about sold. So Kovacic, Havertz, Mendy, Koulibaly, Ziyech, those 5, RubenLoftusCheek 6, Pulisic maybe to Milan 7, and then you've got Aubameyang. Something's got to be done with Aubameyang 8, and there'll be more. There'll still be more. We'll reach that double figures, I think. Even if it's like as P releasing from his contract. With Adsp and N'Golo, there's already 9 with these, and there'll be another. I think double figures of the squad less than what we had. Obviously not including Gusto, Jackson, and Nkunku. But still, we're making moves. Chelsea are due to start returning at Chelsea's Cobham Training Centre around next Tuesday. Ruddy horror, it's happening already, a week from today. With those who have been on international duty with their countries getting some extra time off. That's nice. Pochettino would prefer not to take any players who are seeking moves on pre-season. Good. Conte didn't do that. And Tuchel did, and that screwed our whole season. So it's really important we don't do that. But it remains to be seen how feasible that is with a number of players' futures still unresolved. One of those is Mount, but the midfielder is set to tell Pochettino that he will continue to give everything for Chelsea while he is still a player at the club. And he is prepared to go on tour and work hard ahead of the next season. Yeah, I never had him down for throwing in the towel or doing a Thibaut Courtois and going on strike to get his move, because he won't do that. He hasn't suddenly, in this time you've known Mason Mount at Chelsea, giving everything on the pitch, always going to the fans, always doing PR, always messaging about the fans. He hasn't suddenly, since we've stopped seeing that, just suddenly turned and hated Chelsea. He's very frustrated with what's happened behind the scenes, but he's not going to suddenly, they're also just tarnishing a legacy of where you've been your whole life. He's not a player we signed 2 years ago. He's been here since he was 6 years old. You know, this is his like life. This is all he knows in terms of football. So Manchester United have had 3 bids rejected by Chelsea for Mason Mount, but the England international has not requested to leave the club, as others have, despite the fact he's not extended his contract. It's understood that the only contract he has on the table was from last February, and it was for a 1-year extension. And the reason he hasn't signed that is because there's belief that was due to manipulation for asset value. Again, this is just reports in it. It's understood Pochettino, whose Chelsea contract does not start until July the 1st, who, by the way, is almost certainly already doing work, has not involved with the Mount situation up until now. But the Argentine would likely to meet the player if his future remains unresolved once they start working together. That would be an interesting meeting from both sides, because Pochettino has to be relatively selfish. He knows that he's got loads of good players, young midfielders waiting in the wings, like, you know, Santos, Cassidy, eventually Kendry, Pires if he stays at Chelsea for a few years, hopefully Poch. So he probably thinks, from a selfish perspective, well, Mason Mount's great, and he's like my type of player, which is a common assessment in terms of profile of manager and player. So it doesn't matter if he runs down his contract or not. I've got a senior-ish ready player to just play now and help me develop my coaching. And if he wants to go to Man United next season, I don't care if he goes in the free. I don't do Chelsea's books. It just helps me with that transition. All right, Andrew Santos or whatever, Cassidy's ready to come in, or, you know, Gallagher stayed and got better. Do you know what I mean? So for him, in that perspective, he might be like, yeah, wicked, mate. No whackers. Yeah, and then, you know, there's other stuff Matt Law talks about on here, but I'll leave you guys to read that at leisure. Anyway, like I said, we will have to continue reporting on this story because it's a high-profile headline, and until it's resolved, which hopefully it is sooner rather than later, it's going to be a talking point, and that's what we do here on Football Therapy. So this is the end of the first video of today. I will hopefully have a new lens for the second video, and it's very expensive, so hopefully it looks good. I mean, this hopefully is good quality. I try and make good quality in terms of my setup, what you can't see, but this new lens, it's going to be good. It's going to be slightly wide angle, so you get a bit more of the office, and hopefully it's a bit more immersive. We'll see. Anyway, thanks for liking and subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.